Hello, welcome to the European Open briefing for Monday, May the 21st. I'm Rafi Boyajian, currency analyst at xm.com, and we're going to be having a look at what's happening in the currency markets today. So US Treasury yields continue to go up, and this is continuing to drive the US dollar upwards to fresh highs. So today's gains for the dollar come after reports are saying that the US has put on hold its tariffs with China following positive talks between the two nations over the weekend. The euro and the pound are still under pressure against the resurgent dollar. They've fallen to fresh 5-month lows. The Canadian and New Zealand dollars are also down this morning. The loonie came under pressure on Friday on some disappointing Canadian data, while the Kiwi fell after worse than expected retail sales numbers out of New Zealand this morning. And oil prices are gaining from the positive risk sentiment this morning, as those mainly on those easing tensions, trade tensions between the US and China. So let's now look at what's happening to the dollar. We can see both dollar index, dollar yen sharply up this morning. Dollar index touched a fresh 5-month high of 93.99 dollar yen, rose to 4-month high of 111.38, and US Treasury yields, 10-year yield is climbing back towards last week's 7-year highs. So on Sunday, US Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin said that we're putting the trade war on hold. Right now, we have to agree to put the tariffs on hold while we try to execute the framework. So although there's still no wider agreement on trade, so the two countries for now have agreed to continue to talk. This does raise the possibility, though, that trade tensions could escalate down the line if talks don't go the US's way. There's still no clear measures on how China will help the US cut its massive trade deficit, but for now this is having a positive impact on markets. Most Asian stock markets closed up this morning, and we're seeing a positive start in Europe as well. Though it's worth mentioning that some European markets such as Germany and Switzerland are closed today, so we're likely to see some low volumes. If we have a look at the impact on gold, we can see gold is definitely clearly under pressure from the rising US yields. Last week we saw the precious metals falling below the 1,300 support level. It then managed to hold to establish support around 1,285. It's now broken that support. It's touched a 5-month low, $1,281.76 an ounce. So if you do see more positive developments with the US-China trade talks, gold could come under further pressure. We still, though, have that uncertainty about whether or not those talks between the US and North Korea will go ahead, so that if those talks don't go well, we could see gold finding some upside pressure. And in oil prices, so the positive trade talks are also boosting oil prices. This morning we're seeing WTI climbing back towards last week's 3.5-year highs, when it briefly broke about the $72 a barrel level. We also have support from the political situation in Venezuela after the country's president won the second term as president, and this means that we're not likely to see an end to the country's economic troubles anytime soon. So the country's economic troubles have had a massive impact on its capacity, on its oil market, on its oil production, and that's basically, we've seen a dramatic fall in Venezuelan output, and that has been positive for oil prices, in addition to, of course, the possibility of sanctions on Iran. Also on Friday, we had the latest oil rig count out of the US showing that there were no change in the number of active rigs, so that is also supportive for oil prices this morning. Let's now turn to European currencies, because the euro continues to slide to fresh 5-month lows. It fell as low as $1.17 a short while ago. So Italian politics continues to weigh on the euro apart from the stronger dollar. We're seeing the Five Star Movement and the League parties coming closer to getting into power, and they've now reached an agreement on who's going to be the prime minister. and both parties want to cut taxes and increase spending, and this would possibly mean a breach of the Eurozone's fiscal rules, so that could lead to some further political uncertainty down the line. The sterling is also under pressure, though its losses are a bit more contained than the euros. It still nevertheless managed to drop to $1.3408. That's a 5-month low, and it's coming very close to breaching that key 1.34 level. There's still uncertainty about the UK's plans about whether or not it's going to remain in the customs union after Brexit, but we're likely to see Brexit talks coming back into focus over the next few weeks. So the negotiations will resume this week between the UK and the EU. So we're likely to see some headlines around those talks later this week. Let's have a look at the New Zealand dollar now. We had retail sales numbers out of New Zealand earlier this morning. We saw retail sales were up by just 0.1% in the first quarter on a quarter-on-quarter basis. Forecasts were for 1.7%. So that's the slowest in 5 years, and it doesn't paint a very positive outlook on growth. So the Kiwi is under pressure again. Last week on Friday, we saw the Kiwi recovering to around $0.69 at $30. It's now fallen back to around 0.6885. The Canadian dollar is also not looking too well, although it is slightly up this morning, but on Friday it did fall sharply following some mixed data out of New Zealand. We saw Canadian inflation falling from 2.3 to 2.2%. Forecasts were for 2.3%. Retail sales, we saw the headline figure beating expectations, but the core retail sales number unexpectedly dropped in March. So the rate hike expectations for the month of May by the Bank of Canada have now fallen dramatically after that data. So a rate hike later this month has been pretty much ruled out by the markets, and that's weighing on the loonie. It's currently trading around 1.2873. It had risen to around 1.2740 last week, but now it's back under pressure. We still have also uncertainty around NAFTA. A deal isn't looking likely anytime soon, though President Trump has signaled he is more relaxed about a deadline. He just wants to see a good deal, so maybe perhaps a bit of relief there. If you look at today's economic calendar, we don't have any major data coming up for the rest of the day, though we did see some Japanese numbers earlier, which showed a recovery in exports in April. We do have a number of Fed speakers coming up, though, later today. That's it from me. Thank you very much for watching, and have a great day.